is just a summary to quickly give you that stuff. What should require a programming skills? The first and the most important thing which we are focusing does not require any programming skills. You don't need to be a Java developer, a .NET developer, or a PHP developer. So if you are coming from an infrastructure background, enterprise architects, that's going to be easier. Or if you come from a software background also, that's going to be an benefit also. Basically, you expect to have some Linux skills. If you don't come from a Linux background, no worries. We will be teaching it in the class throughout it, specifically to GCP. So the Linux exposure is going to be really helpful. If you don't have it also, no problem. But no programming experience is required. So you can have a little breather. So if you're not coming from this background, so cloud architect is going to be a good one. Similarly, network engineer and security engineer does not require any programming experience. But if you come from a background like, okay, what should be the best practice of security? So if you have looked into some benchmarking tools, something like uh, CIS kind of stuffs, benchmarking stuffs, then NIST benchmarks, you come from that background and you want to use the best practices, that's going to be helpful. And the commonality between these three are no programming experience is required. Then is where a data engineer comes, where you are going to create your pipelines, all those things. It requires a heavy program experience, preferably in a language called as Python. So, and we are not focusing on this in this class, but the concepts which you are going to discuss will help you out if you are planning to do it. If you come from a background, programming background, if you prefer to take this, your choice. But next certification, now once you finish this, you will definitely get motivated. So I have seen many other learners in the previous batch, they clear it and they call me, Mahesh, I have cleared it, what's the next thing which I should do? I'm in a good what I'm excited, I want to continue this journey. So I usually suggest, ask them, what's your comfort? When you can write a code, you can take something like these things. If you cannot write a code, you want to stay in that high level this thing, network engineer or security engineer is going to be a good thing, because these things are going to help you out to make you become more cloud architect, more stronger. And in our class, we are going to cover basically 40% of what is discussed in a network engineer certification. Similarly, 40% of security engineer. So you're almost there. It's only that some more concepts, if you learn, you can get 2 more certifications in your bag. So, and the reasons, it does not require any coding. It's more of concepts, best practices. For data engineer, having an exposure is very, very important. I also take this currently due to the workload. I'm not able to take this. The next one is developer. Again, a good exposure, but in a programming language where you can write, build web applications. DevOps, exposure on Jenkins, Terraform would be important, and this is becoming very popular these days, is what I have seen. Associate engineer, if you know how to use monitoring tools, all those things, that's going to be helpful. So to answer Vivek's question, the bottom three would expect, the bottom four would expect some programming stuffs, but the top three does not require anything. Okay, so this is from the technical perspective, how you see the different certification. And I have seen in LinkedIn, you can see it yourself. There are 10x people, like 10x GCP certified. And I have seen recently a post basically where one person in 21 months took 21 certifications, not only in GCP, in AWS, Azure, all those things. So I would say the goal should not be that. Some people may be behind that, but if you are taking it for a career upgrade, all those things, focus on one certification, excel in it. So that's going to be the best way, is what I would suggest. And the best one to start one is going to be cloud architect, and we have seen the reasons for it. And I also wanted to give you a real this thing. These are based on my understanding. Now if you just go search for top 20, top 15 IT paying jobs in 2021, 2020, 2019, you'll get a survey created by Global Knowledge, and it's going to show very clearly professional cloud architect. This is actually the survey was taken mostly in US. It's going to apply heavily for US people, but in my own career, being in the Asia part, I have seen this also has impacted. The Singapore example, which I mentioned, is another real example I can quote from my side itself. So this is something official or something from a survey, a third party survey. You can easily take it. And uh, the so-called the number one, number two cloud providers are not in the top. Basically, the top one is Google Cloud Architect. So this is just to motivate you that you have decided a right certification is what I would suggest. All right. Any questions on this, folks, so far? So hope the flow is going good. You are getting the prerequisite, what is required, all those details. Any questions so far, folks? The first day would be little slow. I wanted to understand your pace, all those things. Good. Thank you. Now, let's be very optimistic. 3 months down the line, you finish this course. One more month you take for again preparing up everything, just refreshing all those things. Maybe on the fifth month or so. I need to be very realistic. I will not say you take this, you will finish it. You also have to put a good amount of effort doing your demos, practicing it at least every day, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Do some concept in GCP. So that's where you are going to do it. So, and let me be very frank, the entire training is going to just give you around 65 to 70% of the concept. I will teach you everything, but if you don't do it at your side, I would say you will not be able to get hands on to it. So practice it, do the demos, think of some use cases which you want to do it. So that's very important. So that's where you're going to become 100% prepared for the certification. And also behind the scene you would have also already become a cloud architect, because 4 months, 5 months you would have done a good amount of exposure. You continue it now. Being optimistic, you finish the exam, clear it in one shot, then you get an offer, or maybe in your current organization get itself you may get a promotion to a different role. Now what would be your day-to-day work? What are you going to do basically is, so as a cloud architect you are going to design, develop proof of concepts usually, and manage robust secure applications there, where it's highly scalable. uh, by doing this entire design, what you're going to achieve is, from the business perspective, they can take business decisions easily. So okay, this architecture is going to suit us very well. It's going to be highly scalable. Definitely we are able to fulfill our business requirement. It could be an e-commerce website, it could be a gaming application, or it could be from healthcare. So you're going to get this designed very well, and it is robust. There's one question: will we cover all the services provided by GCP? Most of them from a cloud architect perspective, Mohammad Mansoor. So that is the main part, because as a cloud architect, right, you should know each and every product. And we will not discuss some products which is in beta or in alpha stage. So the product has to be stable. From the exam perspective, if you see, if the product is not in generally available state, you will not get this product in the exam. So anything which is generally available, we will discuss it in our class, and that's the reason 105 hours which we are taking. So that's going to be your role. So you're going to primarily design in very, very simple terms. If I say, you should be in a position to do small proof of concepts, and you will be in that position once we finish this, because we are going to do lots of demonstration. You'll get used to it. Then design it. What block should come to next block? Like for example, after a data, maybe you have a front end application, an app. How does the app interact over the database? So should app, after the app, should a middle tier come, then a database should come, or is it vice versa, or different ways? So what is the flow? Which component should connect to which component is what we are going to make it very, very clear here. That is the most important thing. So if there's one component which does not have an input source, using that in the architecture could be a wrong design. So what should be the best design, what should be the wrong design, all those things we are going to learn, and that is what you are going to do in the rest of your life as a cloud architect, if you want to continue as a cloud architect. And designing is going to be very, very important. Okay, so that's going to be your role. Now, a little bit about yourself. So I would strongly, before I ask these questions, I would strongly suggest you to change your chat window to private, to only to me or to the presenter, so that only the response, I can only see it. If you feel you don't want to share the skills stuff with others, so I would suggest to make it as private. So I'm just going to make a small demarcation so that anything above this is what I'm going to see. Please change it if you prefer to do it. So I wanted to understand something. I have call with few of you, so I understand which background you come from. But holistically, if I can understand it, because I had heard it from different people, I can get a mind map. The first thing, so what is your skill set with respect to cloud? B for beginner, I for intermediate, and E for expert. So I don't want you to type a big name. BIE, that should be good enough, folks. So beginner is more, intermediate is pure. Okay, so I see some people have some exposure in uh, Azure and all. Good to know. Beginner is what I get most of time. So good to know some people are coming from AWS background. Okay. The first question, folks. Let's go with the first question. No coding. Don't worry. So don't worry about that. So first question. I understand that most of you are coming from beginner or intermediate. In intermediate, I understand some of you have AWS and Azure cloud. So that's good to know. So some of you already answered the second question. Thank you for that. Uh, Now I wanted to put a delimiter uh, or a demarcation line. The third question. So if it's beginner, there's no point in me asking whether you have AWS or Azure background. People who were intermediate, they also answered they are coming from some AWS and Azure background. That's good. What I wanted to share here is the class is entirely on GCP, but I can assure you 100% that at least 1% or 2% of AWS concepts, 1% or 2% of Azure concepts you are going to gain in the class itself. Because every module when we discuss, I will at least make one slide and say, what is the equivalent of this in AWS or Azure? The reason is you are focusing primarily on GCP, but not every time the customer may be comfortable with GCP. They may be in AWS. They want to come to GCP. Now, when you talk to the customer, when all the requirement comes, you look into it, and if you see all AWS terms, you should be able to do a mind map. Okay, if it is EC2, it is nothing but a virtual machine in GCP. So 2%, 1% AWS concepts and Azure concepts are also you're going to learn. And I don't have a heavy experience with it, but I have done some exposure, some POCs, couple of implementations. I can share my own thoughts also during the class. So learning from, okay, will we get a recordings of this and how to access? Okay, I had mentioned this already. So you will be getting a recorded of this session. That is the whole purpose. And this recorded session is going to be a lifetime access. It's going to be uploaded in a private YouTube playlist. So you are going to access it via your Gmail ID, which you shared with me. Folks who have shared a Outlook, Hotmail, if you can send me an alternative Gmail ID, it would be good, because I've never tried giving access to a Hotmail or a Outlook to a YouTube video. I've never tried it, but I can give a try and ask you to check it out. But a Gmail would be preferred, and the access is lifetime access. You can play it on any of your favorite device. Okay, so the third question, folks, let me just put this demarcation so that I get it. Anybody worked on any big data technologies like Hadoop, Spark, Edgeways, all those stuffs? I heard one from someone. So no, Hadoop is some of you have worked on. Good. So people who have worked on Hadoop can share your experience during the big data class, so that it's going to be good. So have a conceptual understanding. Good. Good to know. So good, no problem. We will learn this in our class. Thanks for those inputs. And the last question, and the scaring question, but it's not an important thing, but I just wanted to get an idea from you so that whenever we see sometimes, right, I may use a code. The reason for using a code is to show you make you understand the concept, but not to scare you from showing us code. So that's the only reason. So uh, are you comfortable writing a code? It could be even a Linux script also. Does not need to be always Python, Java, anything. So good to know some of you can write code. And if you don't give a response, I'll take it as no. Simple. Shell scripting, good. Shell scripting, good. Good, folks. So now I get an understanding the pulse of the stuffs. That's good. Thanks for all those feedback or inputs. That's going to be helpful.